Hey, okay. So I'm pretty excited actually to just kind of put this out here. So this is just going to be, my story of kind of how I have come into this coaching business, this lifestyle, how our lives have changed and truthfully, if I look back at the Lindsay that I was, 7+ years ago before I started this business, I don't even recognize that person because I have changed and become somebody completely different from her. And I think the old her would be really proud. But I never imagined that this is the way I would get here, right? That I'd be in this happy place in my life and looking forward to what I get to do every single day in this really unorthodox way. Like I never could have imagined. I grew up on a farm and it was like we had, the wind would whistle through the walls and our fire would go out in our wood stove and we'd wake up freezing in the morning and you want to get dressed under the covers. It wasn't a fancy farm, but I had a really great childhood in a lot of ways because I learned a lot. Farm life is, there's a lot of learning to be done there. My parents spent a lot of time with us and my self-confidence was strong. I naturally was somebody who was trying to be an overachiever. A high achiever, I guess. But for me, even an overachiever. And I always got straight A's. I worked really hard in school and I really did attach a lot of my self-worth to the grades that I was getting. I wanted to be recognized for the hard work that I was doing. I was a bit of a perfectionist for sure. I got scholarships and, I went to a good university and all those sorts of things. But I always had in my mind that, I was drawn to careers where I could help people. And in high school, I actually started I did my first long-term relationship and it was not a good fit. But again, like kids, learning what to do and what not to do. And that was when I really, for the first time in my life, and I'm very fortunate for this, that it was that late in my life that I really started to doubt my self-worth. I started to question my confidence. I really lowered my standards and I stayed in a situation that was not good for me at all. And that was kind of the beginning of me, worrying about my body and the size that my body was. And I know that's not unusual for teenagers. But that was the beginning of me kind of like really having that in the back of my mind. Now, thankfully for me, that relationship did end way too long after it should have, but I found myself in a relationship with my husband, Christopher. So we dated and our relationship was kind of like a storybook, honestly, when we first started dating. He proposed in Disney, for goodness sakes, like I think 9 months after we first started dating. And it just was wonderful. We were really isolated and in love and like we couldn't wait. He was working already while I was finishing up university and we just couldn't wait to start our lives together. And a lot of stuff happened leading up to our wedding. I don't know if you've ever had any wedding drama, but a lot of stuff happened. And we went through a lot and it affected him a lot. And, we were pretty young when we had our kids and we got married and those sorts of things. And again, a lot of immaturity. And I think both of us found ourselves in a situation where, we're early 20s and he's mid 20s and he's like not really like being a really active dad like he thought he would. He's depressed, truthfully. We're both struggling with different things, me with anxiety and, we're starting our lives together with all the regular stress of life and then this added stress of turmoil and then add in, you've got kids, so then you're trying to survive that. And he was having jobs. There was stress with his job, potential of him losing his job. And I think right around that time, I went back to school. Well, I didn't go back to school, but I did all the courses that I needed to do for real estate. So I was going to kick off this real estate business with a tiny baby at home. And it just it was really stressful. And I remember living for years feeling anxious, like feeling this like tightness in my chest, that I just kind of got used to because it never seemed to go away. And through that time, I started to gain more and more weight. I was eating for comfort, for celebration, for forgetting that what had happened that day, for loneliness, like all the things. Okay. So this like really unhealthy relationship was, and I remember collapsing on the couch at the end of the night and thinking, I deserve this. Like I deserve to eat these snacks and just watch my show because I've made it through another day. And through this like very chaotic time of starting our real estate business and, you know, having, by that time I had a couple of small kids. I remember like kind of high-fiving him because he's a shift worker. So he would come in the door and I would be going out the door to go show houses because I was trying to do around his schedule on the times when I couldn't just end up having, you know, time where we would have somebody able to watch the kids. Okay, so we were like high-fiving in and out, right? Some days I was lucky and I could coordinate with my parents or my sister or people helping us with favors to watch the kids. But it was super stressful just to even go out and do my job because I was trying to do it around the kids, do it around the shift schedule. I was in the car a lot of the time, you know, hitting the drive-through. I was not home at dinner time because that's when people want to see their houses. I was missing bedtimes, all the things. And, you know, I'm going out, Chris is coming in. I keep going up in size in coats. I keep having to buy new clothes every single season, which is expensive when you're wearing like professional clothes, like I would for real estate. And I remember thinking like, I'm 30. Is this as good as it gets? Like, is this what I'm going to be doing for the next 25 years of my life? Like, is this it? Like, we barely see each other. Our kids are crying because I'm going out the door. And that was always kind of in the back of my mind. Right. Now I remember I have a couple key moments. Now I remember sitting at the park, you know, a couple blocks from our house. And I remember being exhausted, even just getting there with the kids. So I wasn't sleeping well. I wasn't eating well. I wasn't eating to fuel myself. Exercise was not a thing, for me at that time. And like my kids are running around playing. And I remember thinking, I'm sitting on the bench and I'm like, oh, like trying to tire them out. And I thought, I hope they don't ask me to play with them. I don't want to get up and play with them. And I was like, oh, disappointed in myself, frustrated with myself because I thought, this is not the mom that I want to be. This is not the mom I want my kids to remember. I want to, you know, play with them. I want to be active. I want to be part of their memories. I don't want to be, you know, the exhausted mom sitting on the bench, never spending the time with them. So that was kind of like the first story that happened. Now, what happened was we went on a trip, a vacation to Disney. You see, I'm a big Disney fan. And we got the photo pass, which I don't recommend. I feel like it's kind of a waste of money. Although it does get mom in the picture, so there are perks to it too, I suppose. But we got the photo pass, and you know, I remember it was a couple $100. And I would like go at night, we'd get our picture taken with the kids, and I would like go home and look at the photo pass and like delete. I was deleting picture after picture after picture because I hated the way I looked in them. I'm like, you know, not thinking about the money part of it, but like the memory part of it. Like my kids, I deleted every single picture from our vacation because I didn't like the way I was looking in it because I wasn't feeling comfortable in my skin, or happy with the size that I was showing up as on the camera screen. And that I was like, this has got to stop. Like, this has got to stop. This is not okay. There's got to be something I can do about this. And I remember there was another busy mom who, you know, she worked and she had little kids, and her husband was a shift worker as well. And she was talking about like doing these workouts from home. And I was like, because, you know, you think you're sitting there and you're like, oh, I need to do something. Oh, I need to do something. But that's as far as it gets. That was a time where I actually did something. I messaged her and I said, like, what are you doing? Tell me about this. And she told me, and she gave me a little bit of a suggestion that I could start this 3-week program and what she had started with, and I could learn, like, focus on nutrition, which is like portion control. And I was going to be doing these 30-minute workouts, which was kind of like 30 minutes. Like, that's doable, even though like it feels like I have no time in my day whatsoever. But that did feel like that's something I could carve out the time for somehow. At the time, I wasn't sure how. All I knew was I needed to do something, right? So I started this program. Everything that could go wrong went wrong, like including like I think we got into a car accident, me with the kids, on our way to skating lessons. We got T-boned at an intersection. Our pipes froze at our house because there was like a thaw, then like it went really cold, and then there was a thaw, and so we didn't have water for like 3 or 4 days in our house, so we'd have to go over to my parents and get water from them. And yet I continued. I joined this group. She told me to join this group on Facebook, and I was very hesitant about that too, because I was like, I would rather do this like in private, because I'm not in a good place mentally. I'm not in a good place physically. And I think part of me was like, you know, what if I can't do it? What if I have to quit? Or what if I decide to quit? But I also thought too, you know what, the stuff I've been doing hasn't been working. So if I give this a shot, like I might as well give this a shot and actually do it, right? So I go into this group, I see there's these other busy women who are, you know, finding a way. They're finding a way to make themselves a priority again. And it was incredibly inspiring. And, you know, it was probably within the first week I was like, this is different. Like this is different, and I feel like so many people need this. I feel like there's so many people who are like me who think, like, is this as good as it gets? Like, I don't have the time to do this. I can't afford to do this. That are trying to do it on their own and really don't have the support or, you know, the community or the accountability. And I just kind of kept thinking, like, so many people need this. And I was one of those people who was like, I have no time and I have no extra money for this, right? But I had given it a shot because I was like, if this is the thing that can change things from the way that I am not loving the way they are, then I'm gonna try. And so what happened was I go through and I get results with this, and I'm thinking all along, I'm like, wow, like I don't want this to stop. Like, I don't want to quit on myself again. I was notorious for quitting on myself, not keeping promises to myself. And that's when my coach said to me, like, she's like, have you thought about coaching? And again, I was like, whoa, no thanks. Like, I have a full-time real estate career. I have 2 tiny kids at home. Chris is a shift worker. I already feel like I have like 900 balls in the air, and, you know, half of them are falling down, and I'm just barely keeping afloat. But again, that tug in the back of my mind, or in my heart, wherever you want to call it from, was there. And I was like, I really do feel like other people need to know that this is an option. Like, what if people don't even know this is a thing, right? And the other thing was too, I was somebody who was breaking a lot of promises to myself, typically, and I didn't want to do that anymore. And, you know, I thought about, if I had to show up for other people, I was way less likely to not show up. If it was just for myself, I would, you know, easily talk myself out of it and be like, whatever, you know. But if it was for other people, and that's the magic of this, that really is the magic of coaching, is that, you know, you start to show up for other people, and it makes you want to continue to show up and be part of this community. So fast forward to, I decided to coach. I was scared. I knew nothing. I didn't know what it was going to look like. I barely posted on Facebook. I hardly had any friends. I didn't even have an Instagram. But I was willing to start. I was willing to be coachable, to listen to what my coach suggested, to really just invest in myself and start to build this little passion project, is kind of how I thought of it, right? So a few months in, ironically, my oldest son, who was 5 at the time, started like getting sick. Like, he would have fevers and he would have joint pain, and the joint pain was so bad that like he would not be able to walk. Multiple ER ER visits, him like laying in the schoolyard, not able to move because his legs hurt so bad and he was crying, and he'd have this fever and he wouldn't act like himself. And, you know, we went to multiple specialists. We were at the hospital lots of times, and, you know, what I thought was like, okay, they're going to figure this out and we're going to carry on with our lives, went on and on and on. And the more people we talked to, the less people knew, and they would come up with a new syndrome or a new idea about what's wrong with him. And at one point it was like, we were going so many times a month out of town, 3-hour trip. I'm trying to also fit this in with real estate and another little kiddo at home. Going to these appointments, going to these specialists, time in the hospital. And then, being I remember he was admitted a couple weeks before Christmas, and I was in the hospital with him, and we were really worried. And the doctors didn't really know what was going on. And I remember, thinking again, like that pull in my gut that was just kind of like, I felt off. It felt like the career that was happening was not aligning with the vision or the life that I'd hoped we'd had, the type of mom, the type of wife, the just day to day. Like I hated that feeling across my chest that was that constant anxiety feeling. And at the same time as that's happening, I have this passion project, which I've built into a business. Right now I'm actually calling it a business. So instead of, just from the beginning being like, it's a business, I'm going to treat it like a business, I was almost afraid to say that. But here's this business where I'm having people message me because they're I'm paying it forward. They're starting to do this with me. They're joining my accountability groups. Some of them are even joining our coaching team, and they're saying things like, I'm a different mom. Like our house feels different. Like I found myself again. And, it was the same things that I had felt. And it was so exciting to see other people feeling that as well. And, we were coming home from a trip from Disney, and we were driving down the I-75. And this was after I had spent the whole last day that we were in Florida writing up an offer remotely for a house that clients of mine were looking at, that they ended up not even presenting the offer. And, I remember hearing my kids splashing and playing out in the sunshine, and I'm stuck inside, like trying to deal with my laptop and getting this offer sent over and all this stuff. And I turned to my husband, and he's driving, and I said, I think that I'm thinking about leaving real estate and just doing coaching full time. And he did not miss a beat. He said, it's about time. Or what took you so long, or something like that. And I just remember being like, because I was so afraid to tell him that, like, I felt so out of alignment. And, his struggles, he worked a lot on them too, because he saw me working on becoming a better person myself. And I honestly, there's times where I look back and I'm like, I don't know without this if we would still be married, because there was so much internal and external work that was being done by both of us, because of being surrounded by this community of people who wanted to be better versions of themselves. And, learning that, and the personal development that I do as part of this coaching business changed me. It changed me. It put me into a mindset where I can do hard things. I can have this growth mindset. I don't have to be stuck. I get to choose my circumstances, those sorts of things. And there's this saying that I like to say too, in our team, is when you change a mom, you change a family. And that was what happened, in our household. My kids, they probably don't remember the mom who sat on the bench and, didn't want to play with them. They remember me now, and they see me, working hard, making the impossible possible, getting things done, setting goals. And our team is in the top 0.01% of the company, but that doesn't matter. None of that matters. What matters is, the life that we get to live. Because of this, and the life that other women that I have worked with and have been part of our team and part of our virtual fit club have been able to live because of this. So paying this forward and doing this, it's the greatest work. It is the greatest work. And I feel honored that I get to do this every day. I legitimately feel excited when I get up to work in the morning, or, when I sit down at night and I'm working on stuff. I love it. I love it so much. And it's just fantastic. So stay tuned, scroll through, keep checking out the other videos that are part of this sneak peek, and, get excited. Ask me any questions. I'm here to answer any questions that you have. This really is the best work, and I can't say enough about what it has brought into my life over the last, 7+ years.